First look at Magnetic OS based on Android 9.0 Pie running on the Xiaomi Poco F1. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to get notified of new videos. Hey peeps, what's up? Munchie here, back with another video, and in this video we're going to have our first look at Magnetic OS based on Android 9.0 Pie running on the Xiaomi Poco F1. If you want to know how to install this ROM on your Poco F1, I have a separate video for that which is linked in the description of this video, and it will also pop up as a card on the top right of your screen. So this is how Magnetic OS comes out of the box. You have Magnetic OS wallpaper, launcher, and you have Android 9.0 Pie recents. You do have the option of switching back to Android Oreo recents. We'll have a look at that down the line. And this is how your quick settings panel looks like. You also have the option of adding quick setting toggles for screen recorder and also for sound recorder in case you want to use them. Let us first go into settings, and nothing much to talk about in Wi-Fi and internet and connected devices. We'll jump over to apps and notifications and see what all apps come baked in. Do note that Google apps are baked into this ROM. So you have Google Calculator, Google Calendar, Google Camera. The version for that is version 6.2 and it works absolutely fine. Then you have Google Chrome, Clock, Google Contacts, Digital Wellbeing, the Files application, FM radio, Gallery. The keyboard is Google Keyboard aka Gboard. Then you have the Google app itself, Google Play Services, Play Store, Launcher like I mentioned earlier, Google Messages, a music app, the Google Phone application, settings, recorder, wallpapers, and SIM toolkit. These are all the apps which come baked in. Screen time is all about digital well-being. We'll talk about this later in this video. Then you have notifications. You can choose what content you want to see on the lock screen, whether you want notification dots or not, what is your default notification sound. You can configure your do not disturb. You have the settings for the LED light, whether you want the notification light enabled or not. For battery, you want the notification light enabled or not. Do you want it to pulse if the battery is low? You can configure all those options. Next you have advanced in apps and notifications, and then in advanced the first option is default apps, so you can choose your default applications. Then you have app permissions, so from here you can determine what all apps have access to specific permissions. So let's go into location, and right now these are all the applications which can have access to location, but only camera, Chrome, Google and all the other toggles which are enabled have access right now. So calendar and phone application do not have access to the location. You can configure this for all the other permissions which are mentioned on that page. Then you can configure your emergency alerts as well. Next up in settings we have battery, so you can turn off the battery saver at a specific time, or you can just click on turn on now to turn it on at that specific point. Then you also have battery manager. This is something which Google added with Android 9.0 Pie, and the phone will detect rogue applications. If there's something which is draining excessive battery, that application will be reported and you can take necessary action with that application. You have performance profile. This is your thermals. You can choose between extreme battery, default, gaming and high performance. When was the last full charge, your screen on time since the last full charge, and what is your battery temperature. Next up in settings we have display, and the first option which we have in display is brightness level, so you can configure your brightness level using that toggle. Then you have night light, whether you want to schedule the night light to none, turn it on at a custom time, or turn it on from sunset to sunrise, or just turn it on right away, and you can control the intensity of the display using that slider. Next in display we have adaptive brightness, so again something which Google added with Android 9.0 Pie, wherein the phone will learn your brightness settings in specific environments, and when you're back in that specific setting the brightness will automatically adjust to that level. Next up we have live display. You can change your color profile, whether you want dynamic, you want sRGB, or you just want standard. You have different options whether you want to enable the reading mode or not. Then you have color calibration. You can configure your RGBs using these sliders and reset in case things go south. And same applies for picture adjustment. You can adjust the hue, the saturation, the intensity and the contrast using all these sliders. In case you do not like a specific setting, just click on reset and it will go back to default. Then you have the option of choosing your wallpaper. You do have live wallpapers from the Google Pixel 3 baked into this ROM, and the option of choosing sleep, so you can choose after how many seconds or minutes you want your display to go to sleep. You have auto rotate screen. You can configure your font size. You can also configure your display size, what screensaver you want. You have ambient display, so the phone will wake up for new notifications. And if you want to display now playing songs on your lock screen, you have that option as well. You have the option of pocket detection, wherein the lock screen and the buttons will not work if it detects that your phone is in the pocket. You have double tap to wake, and you also have double tap to sleep by tapping on the display. So let's say our phone is turned off or the display is off, we double tap, the phone wakes up, double tap one more time, it goes back to sleep. Next up in display we have device theme. So you have four options: automatic, based on wallpaper, based on time of day, light or dark. However, if you choose dark, there are still some issues which need to be ironed out, because you can see that the dark theme was not applied successfully. So I recommend that you use Omni themes, which is baked into this ROM, if you want to switch between themes. We'll talk about that down the line. And you can also configure your dark theme style. However, as I said, the themes are not working perfectly for me right now. Then you have sound. In sound, you can configure your media volume, call volume, ring volume, alarm volume, notification volume if you want to, whether you want to link the ring and notification volumes. If I disable this, the option to control the volume of notification is enabled automatically. Then whether you want your phone to vibrate for calls or not, you can configure your do not disturb. Then you can also configure the now playing songs, the ringtone for sim 1 and sim 2. You can configure them separately and independent of each other. What is your default notification sound, your default alarm sound, whether you want dial pad tones or not, screen locking sounds, charging sounds, touch sounds, screenshot, touch vibration, fingerprint authentication, wherein once you place your finger on the fingerprint and it is authenticated successfully, the phone will vibrate, and also vibrate to indicate the call status. And you also have Me Sound Enhancer in the building. So these are all the customizations which you have in sound. Nothing much to talk about in storage. We'll move over to security and location. So your screen lock works absolutely fine. Your lock screen preferences is what all content you want to see on the lock screen, whether you want to add users from the lock screen or not. If you want a specific message on the lock screen, you can choose that over here. Display media cover art is if you want to display the media cover for songs which are playing on your phone on the lock screen or not. Show the lockdown option. Automatic face unlock, works like a boss. Now playing, again we have the option here, repeated multiple times. What is the weather unit you want on your lock screen, whether you want Celsius or you want Fahrenheit. Once you've set up your pin, if you go into smart lock and then you enter your pin, you will have multiple options. You can set up your IR face unlock using the trusted face and it works absolutely fine. What else do we have in security and location? So that's about it for security and location. We'll go back. Nothing much to talk about in accounts and accessibility. Digital well-being, this is where you can lock down apps. So if you don't want to use an application after spending a specified amount of time in that application, you can do that from here. You can configure your wind down, you can configure your notifications and your do not disturb from digital well-being. Next up we have Google. Nothing much to talk about in Google. We'll jump over to system. In system you have gestures, so you can control your jump to camera gesture. Swipe up on home button is your Android 9.0 Pie gestures if you want them, or you can just use the old style navigation bar. Whether you want swipe for screenshot, so this is your 3-finger screenshot, and if I remember correctly, this ROM does support extended screenshots as well. And that's about it for system. We'll now jump into personalization. This is where you have the customizations for magnetic OS. First up is status bar. So in status bar you can configure your clock, whether you want to see the clock and date, whether you want it to auto hide, what duration you want to hide it for, or what duration you want to show it for. Where do you want the clock? Left, center or right? Center won't work because we have a notch. The AM PM style, whether you want it hidden, small or normal, whether you want to see the seconds in the clock or not, whether you want to see the date or not, what is the date style you're looking for, normal, lowercase, uppercase, what is the date format. You have these multiple options for the date format. You can also configure the clock font size by using this slider and the clock font style. So you have multiple options for the clock font. That's about clock. Next up we have battery icon. So you can configure the style of icon you want for the battery icon, and where do you want the battery percentage to be. You want it hidden next to the icon or inside the icon. Next, you configure your quick settings, whether you want to disable quick settings on the lock screen or not, and where do you want the quick pull down from. So if I make it right and swipe down from the right, the quick settings panel is expanded, and if I swipe down from the left hand side, it is not expanded. So that is what quick pull down is. Then you have the status bar icons. If you want to use the old style icons, you can enable this toggle, whether you want to see your data activity indicators in the status bar or not, what all icons you want to see in your status bar. So these are all the customizations you have for status bar. Then we have navigation bar. So whether you want to see the navigation bar or not, in case you are using a third-party application for full screen gestures, you can disable the navigation bar, and in nav bar options you can choose the layout, whether you want it normal, compact, left leaning or right leaning, and you can also edit the buttons according to your personal preferences. Then you have quick settings, you have panel tweaks wherein you can configure the number of rows and columns in both portrait and in landscape mode. Then you have the quick setting header style. You want it black, gray, light gray, accent based or transparent. What is the tile style you're looking for? Right now we have is neon light. We can change it to triangle, wait for the UI to reboot or restart, and there it is. Now we have the triangle style. So you have different styles for your quick setting tile icons, whether you want the brightness slider in your quick settings or not, whether you want the brightness slider button on the bottom. So if we enable this, the brightness slider will move to the bottom. There it is, it moved to the bottom. Then you have the auto brightness icon on the right, and brightness control buttons. So you can configure your brightness slider accordingly. Next up we have buttons. In buttons is, do you want to disable the power button on the lock screen? Do you want long press power button for torch, and for how many seconds you want it for? Then the volume rockers is like wherein you can add more panel sliders. So right now if I click on the volume button, I have only one panel. If I want to add voice, I'll enable voice, and when I click, I have another panel for voice. So like this you can keep on adding as many panels as you want to in the volume panels. Then you have volume steps. You can configure your volume steps from this option. Then if you want to use the volume buttons to wake your device, there's a toggle for that, or you can choose the volume rockers to control the playback of song which you're playing, but you can choose only one of these options. You cannot choose both of them at the same time. In case you want the navigation bar buttons to be inverted, you can do that as well. So back button move to the right. When I enable that option, by default it is on the left. Then we have customizations for the lock screen, whether you want lock screen charging info or not, whether you want automatic face unlock or not. So if you have this option enabled, as soon as it detects your face, it will bypass the lock screen and take you to the home screen. And the last option is if you want your phone to vibrate on a successful fingerprint authentication or not. Then you have recent apps, so you can change between Android Pie and Android Oreo recents. Once you change over to Android Oreo recents, you have the option of using different kind of recents, showing the memory bar, clearing all button, and where do you want the clear all button. You want it on the bottom right or you want it elsewhere. You have all those customizations as well. Then you have style. So this is where you have themes. So you have the option of omni themes. Let's choose the clear extended theme. Wait for the UI to reboot a little. There it is, the UI rebooted, and bam, we have the new theme in the building working like a boss. So that's why I was telling you, do not use the themes option from display. Instead, go into personalization and use the style option to choose what theme you want to be running on your Poco F1 running magnetic OS. Then in personalization we have display cutout, so you can choose between three different styles. The current style is normal. You can choose immersive, in which the notification area will be used for icons. I don't know why they vanished, but they should be there. And if you want to hide it, in that case the notification area will not be used for your status bar icon. So you have these three options to choose from for your display cutout, whether you want the stock status bar height or not. And you can also choose full screen applications, so for whichever application you enable the toggle, the notch will be hidden in that application. A pretty nifty feature. And last but not the least, we have miscellaneous, in which we have suspend actions. I do not know much about suspend actions, so I will skip this. As for the benchmark scores, these are the benchmark scores which I got on Magnetic OS. I have the 6 GB RAM variant of the Poco F1, and that will do it for this video, peeps. I hope my video helped you. Likes, shares and subscribes are appreciated. Feedback and comment more than welcome. See you when I see you.